Evaluation 1. In what ways does your media product use, develop, or challenge conventions of real media products? Music video. One of the first tasks within the research and planning was to create mode boards of varying album covers, which then had to be grouped as you saw appropriate. One of these album covers, the most iconic and memorable ones, originated from two groups. They were minimalistic and brightly colored. Illustrated, I soon established when thinking of what my Digipak was going to be like, then designing an illustrated product would be very difficult and only be a success if completed to the highest standard. Therefore, creating a minimalistic Digipak seemed the most viable option, as it could match conventions of real products. Moreover, the adverts which tended to accompany such albums were either copies of the Digipak converted into a poster or used the same images, fonts, etc. As a result, I realized that continuity between the two media products were essential to creating an identity for my artist, as well as making my work appear authentic and credible. I feel my work reflects this, as the pieces match and have been inspired by the same existing media products. A product I used for such inspiration was the Arctic Monkeys' fifth album, AM. I felt this was a minimalistic design, but I still had a strong style which stood out from other albums. I also believed I could convert features they used on my own work to make it a success. The first of these was to use the idea of line running through the whole Digipak. As on AM, within my pieces of work, however, I would choose two lines, and these would primarily come from the underlining of the artist's name on the album cover and advert. These lines then continued throughout the whole Digipak, including the booklet. Not only do I feel this created a bold style, but it showed the continuity which the first drafts lacked and the development I had made. Moreover, like on AM, it split up the track list, and I felt as though it was for no logical reason, and ethical worked well and listened what I can be a dull part of Digipak. In addition, challenging the line on AM, I opted to make my lines thicker and straight, as I believe this created a bolder, more powerful impact, establishing the artist's name as the main focus on the products. Meanwhile, the use of black background was to create a slight mystery about the artist, as well as feeling that using a coloured background could make the album glary and off-putting. Whilst most indie and indie rock albums tend to use black backgrounds of images, are not used such as in the 1975, so I stuck with conventions. Also, I think using a coloured backing would perhaps lead the audience to believe the album was a pop album, which would quickly accidentally alternate my intended audience.
Despite this, I did use a white background on the back and disc side of the Digipak, as well as selected pages in the accompanying booklet. I did this to avoid the album giving the impression of heavy rock, which is not my genre, which with the red text could have been assumed, and also like the contrast it created. It could be argued that AM is all black, but not a heavy rock album. This is true, but that is their fifth album, so people know their genre and are likely to buy the project because they like the music, regardless of the artwork. Furthermore, I also took inspiration from the Black Keys' sixth album, Brothers. It was clear from my first draft that the images used were boring and uninspiring. As a result, I decided to change tact and avoid the use of images on the Digipak, and went for a plain yet bold black background. Such a background made the text appear bold and also follow conventions of many albums which avoid the use of images in preference for a more powerful focus on the text. I felt the power created on the front of Brothers was achieved by the font used. Therefore, I researched this font and found it to be called Cooper Black. I then used this in my own work for a lot of my text. However, I didn't solely use it, as I felt it would then lose its effect, becoming boring and predictable. Moreover, I didn't use the Black Keys' idea of making the text literate and stating the obvious, as I felt this would be simply copying and look cheap. The other font I used, Alien, contrasted well with Cooper Black, as it was more pointed as opposed to rounded. I also on occasions used it in red as to differentiate between the artist's name and the album's title. Meanwhile, because I didn't have the unique nature of the black keys stating the obvious, change of font added a different dimension which it was until then lacking. Furthermore, this additional font made differentiation between areas of text within the digipack easier and clearer. This was the case on the spine of the album, as the lines crossing here would have not made it clear as it splits the three words as opposed to just the two phrases. Such a technique follows conventions where different sections of text located close together are shown apart by either a change in font, text, colour or size. I added a barcode and the Sony record label logo to the back of my digipack to make it look authentic and match the conventions of real albums, which were backed up by accompanying the legal details placed below, adding credibility to my pieces. The track list was put in the same font as my album title, indicating its lesser importance compared to that of the artist's name. Whilst the lines on the digipack, although not in any logical way, split the track list, making it look less boring and slightly different from usual albums that just have the tracks one by one in a vertical list. All the above information for the digipack also applies to the same features on the poster. This enabled continuity and an identity to be created, as well as being the conventional way to link the album and advert. The only real difference, apart from the different formats, is the inclusion in the bottom left corner of the band's website address and Twitter name. I chose these as such contact details are the most popular among people today, and especially that of an indie audience. Meanwhile, such information is concise but to the point, so it doesn't detract from the minimalistic style of the product. Although I wanted my two pieces to be minimalistic, I also knew that something more of an insight was required of the artist, so I decided to design a booklet to go with my digipack, as this way the minimalism of the album and advert were undisrupted. The booklet followed the same design as the other elements, incorporating the same fonts and lines. At the start, there is a message to the people buying the album, thanking them personally. This is a touch I added after seeing it in the booklet for Scouting for Girls, The Greatest Hits. I thought it worked well, adding credibility to the album and represented the artist positively. In addition, the booklet contained a variety of images of my artist, as I believed it would be something fans would want to see and is used in many real products to make people feel closer to the artist whose music they are buying. I framed the images as I thought this style was effective and is often used by younger people when posting on social media sites, therefore I felt this would suit the audience's preferences.
Finally, the use of just the three colours, black, white and red, I felt not only made the pieces bold, but it kept the original and followed the conventions of these three colours going together and complementing one another. Digipack and advert.
When looking at music videos in the planning and research stage of the coursework, a lot of videos produced were of an illustrative nature, either because they were narrative and explained, showed a clear relationship between the music and the lyrics, or they were a performance-style video. Initially, my first draft video was a mixture of these illustrative techniques, but the combination meant that neither of the techniques stood out strongly, and it was not very clear as to where the video was going. Some videos are a mixture of the two, but I felt it would be very hard to match such conventions. Moreover, the idea of making a video of an amplification nature or disjuncture was not going to be possible. This is because with the video being discordant from the song, it would not be clear to the audience of the relationship and ruin the song's reputation. Whilst the videos of such a style are hard to replicate and don't often work with new artists, as they often come with established artists. Therefore, I didn't think I'd be able to achieve such conventions. After deciding to create an illustrative video of a performance nature, I looked at the theorist Andrew Goodwin and what he believes to be the conventions of a music video. I attempted to follow these as to make my video authentic. Whilst with my video not being disjuncture, I felt following conventions as opposed to challenging them would be key to making my video a success. Firstly, I wanted to match the conventions he stated, starting with through beats seeing the sound. I quickened the speed of my cuts and their frequency to match the speed of the music. and when lyrics started, stopped. Therefore, I added more cuts as the video initially was boring because of the long cuts. Because of this, my video appeared more conventional and realistic due to the more frequent cuts and speed of the video. Secondly, I wanted to make the song by the Vaccines appear to have been sung by my artist. Therefore, I used all males as well as drums and 2 guitars to match up with the instrumental parts of the song. I felt this style in the video was reflecting the style of the song and kept up with conventions. However, in parts, my lip syncing wasn't the best, so authenticity often wavers as a result of this. Although the playing of the drums does look real, and the close-ups of this enhance its realism and live up to conventions. Thirdly, with my video being a performance, not a great relationship was built between the lyrics and the visual, but I did use 2 locations, the car and outside band performance, to create a different narrative. I did this by having the artist one by one leaving the car and performing individually before being joined by the others. This didn't have any relation with the lyrics, but was an idea the Arctic Monkeys had used in their video for Are You Mine, and I adopted the idea to give my performance video a different dimension. Although this did partly challenge conventions of a performance video, it was more of an addition to the genre than an alteration and mainly matched conventions.
Narrative and performance. As I've mentioned, with my video being performance, where the visuals didn't match the lyrics, this relationship was not the strongest. However, Goodwin cites that often the audience makes its own decisions about the messages a song is giving off. Therefore, although this relationship might not have been the strongest, I wasn't too concerned as it still represented conventions, especially that of performance videos. Additionally, Goodwin says most artists mime, however that is in their best interest for the video to look authentic. As a result, I had my artist singing and then removed this audio on Final Cut Pro. This way it still appeared authentic and matched convention. Relation of visuals to song. I've already explained the lack of relationship between the lyrics and visual, but not too much about the song and accompanying visuals. I aim to reflect the instrumental aspects of the song in terms of the mise-en-scène by using drums and 2 guitars to match up with the instrumental parts of the song. Not only did this match the song, but it also correlated with conventions of other performance music videos. Also, when not showing the band performance, the drummer, when in the car, was drumming the back of the front seats to ensure a continuation of this relationship. Technical aspects of music video. In terms of technical aspects, I used the same camera throughout the whole filming process of my video. This was done deliberately to ensure a continuation of the quality of footage produced. This lived up to conventions of a music video, and there maintained visual quality. A video that does challenge these conventions is Jake Bugg's Trouble Town, whereby he uses different cameras to create varying visual effects. Finally, relating to the mise-en-scène, I ensured the car was empty, and when filming the music video on a driveway, no items or rubbish were in the frame. This made it look like an authentic production and accounted for the matching of conventions. Thanks for watching.